The title of my message is Living in Turbulent Times. So I ask you, do you ever worry about what's happening in our world? Some people do, and some people don't. It all depends on your priorities. As long as you can still get to Macca's and get onto your device and connect with the rest of the world, you might be happy. All is good. On the other hand, you may be looking at what's going on around the world and thinking, this is not so good. Social media. Social media is the phenomenon of our current age and generation, and it provides a platform. It's instantaneous. It's global. There are people called influencers. In my day, if you were an influencer, you were one of the cool kids at school. They had about 4 or 5 others that would follow you. And, whatever you did with your socks or your hair, some people would try and follow you. But that was about it. The idea that you could make a living by pretending to be a normal person, but actually being an influencer and saying, you want to eat this sort of food, this is the latest superfood, it's really fantastic, and suddenly you've got thousands of people following you, and you can then turn around to the manufacturer and say, well, how about if you give me a cut of your profits and I'll promote your product on my website. We've got state actors that try and infiltrate other countries and interfere with their IT. Sometimes it's done through ignorance, sometimes it's done as deliberate and malicious acts. So I just want to quickly comment, and this is sort of the introduction. It's going to be a bit more interactive, but I've got to keep an eye on the time. I've made a commitment, so I can't take too long. All right, let's have a look at a couple of these images here. I'm going to see if I can advance this to the next one. Does that work? No? What about this one? Maybe we should have done an induction. Okay, you better come up and just show me. I'm assuming that one of these buttons here is the one which goes to the next one. Okay, just excuse me for a minute while I get an IT guy just to...
Do we have to show a teacher?
Well, normally I would have this organised beforehand, but I'll see you afterwards and we'll deal with that then. You just take your notes. Quality time with the teacher. Okay, maybe if I just indicate you can go on to the next one when we're ready. Yeah, all right, so let's go on to the next one. I've got some images up here. Now, I've got to just sort of make some comments. These are not, the whole topic and subject is so deep that there's so much that could be said. But this one here, anyone recognise what this is? What is it? Chinese. The Chinese national flag of China. Well, see, malicious state actors. How did they know? They've already... Has anyone got a phone made in China? Huawei? There you go. See, they've been tracking you. All right, well, China. China's interesting at the moment. China is emerging from at least about 150 years of being in the backwaters. Without going into details, you could say the West did a number on China way back in the 1800s. And it's taken China over 100 years to get back to being a significant power, but it is definitely a power and it's definitely having an effect on our region. It's run by a communist government. We can't confuse the government with the people of China, but it's run by a communist government. And truth is not something that they are tremendously committed to. They are committed to their particular worldview. And in Australia, we've been calling them out on that. And that has got some people into trouble. And people have gone to jail. And there's one person who's been in jail for 18 months and has finally been charged and will now go to court in China. That would be considered unacceptable in Australia. You can't just lock somebody up for 18 months and take your mind and take your time and suddenly decide, well, we're going to charge you under some state law about saying things that we don't like. So China is out there trying to control things. This next one here depends on your choice of pet. This is, we'll skip that right at the top there, why animals need rights. So we've got animal liberationists. These are the groups that have been fairly active in Western Australia, breaking into farms and sort of absconded with animals and taking them home to their high-rise flat, presumably give them milk or something else like that. And they talk about the rights of animals. Now, animals do need to be treated properly. They should not be treated cruelly and in an inhumane way. But they actually, one of their slogans is that the animals should have autonomy over their own lives. Animal has autonomy over their own lives. I thought that was interesting. But they're a little bit biased because it tends to be the mammals that they're talking about. And they don't really get down to talking to mosquitoes or earthworms or something like that. What is your choice? I mean, okay, I can understand informed consent from a pig. Would you sign this document? I want to kill you and eat you. But what about these ones underneath? Antifa. I'd never heard of Antifa until this year, but it's the anti-fascist movement. And there's just a bit of a concern because in Europe after the chaos of World War I and tremendous destruction, there was very genuine tension between the left socialist part of politics and the right wing or right side of politics. Nazi Germany was the right wing, fascist, and Stalin and communism in Russia was the left. Both groups were struggling for power in Germany after World War I. Both groups were equally happy to shoot and kill each other. They were both extreme in their views. And so the emergence it has developed as this anti-fascist group. So you can see the guy with the black flag. So you see these guys on any footage that you see of some of the demonstrations and stuff that's happening in the USA. And I can't pick the difference unless they're wearing a Trump hat or something else and chanting USA. But they're sort of left-wing guys, and they're pretty extreme. If we go to the next slide. Now, my good friend Brian knows all about this. Brian, so what are those initials on the top left stand for? Or what's the word?
QAnon.
And what the heck are they?
I don't know what they stand for.
Ah, very good. I thought you would. Because they're the ones that say there's a global conspiracy. The governments of the world are out there to keep you in the dark, to suppress your rights. The dark web is a place where you can go and find the truth. So this is actually the right-wing group, which are the opposite to the anti-fascist group. So this QAnon tends to have an over-representation of white supremacists, okay? And now, I've got to be really blunt, I've got to be really honest with you guys. Just because we have a white skin or a person has a white skin doesn't mean they're the best person in the world. But there are some groups that tend to push that a little bit. And you think, this is sort of crazy. But these are the right-wing group. They're the opposite to the anti-fascist group. They are also the ones that are most likely to be telling you that COVID-19 is a conspiracy of some sort. It's a manufactured virus which is being used to either knock off one side group of humanity or something else like that. Who knows what the truth is, except I can tell you that you can trace the DNA code, the RNA of the virus, and that tells you whether or not you've got human interference or not. Okay? So there is not a lot of support for a deliberate manufacturing of a virus that's going to knock off humanity. So there are simpler explanations for how that virus has come to existence. But QAnon will really find fertile ground for creating dissent, concern and worry. All right, let's pop to the next one. At the top there, we've got a peaceful Black Lives Matter, a very legitimate and important issue. Okay, that's the focus for this is particularly on black lives, and it comes in the context of the United States. And it's a genuine issue. But then, of course, it tilts over. We've got the anger. We've got those that enjoy taking opportunity to run amok. So we see the destruction of property, the challenge to authority on the bottom slide. So what's so disturbing about some of these images or groups? All of them can be a cause of concern, where we look at division, violence, extremism, the whole issue of identity politics. Who's trying to give a cohesive story that unites people together? Or is it all about individualism? Is it all about the fact that you are either a disadvantaged young person, a disadvantaged older person, you're discriminated against because of this, because of that? Is that what we've become as a society around the world? And people talk about identity politics, about belonging to subgroups. So I've now coined the phrase. I, as a proud member of the BAC community, I would just like to say, and I know that there are places where the moment I stand up to say, as a proud member of the, and they're expecting me to go on to say LGBTQT and a few other letters thrown in, and I say BAC, and I'm likely to get a round of applause. And then they're going to say, BAC, what's that stand for? Oh, born again Christian. The enemy! You did that, did you?
They can't do that.
No, that's exactly right. But hey, hang on, the Christians, where did that? Oh, well, okay. So anyway, identity politics, belonging to subgroups, that now justifies your position and your drive towards things. You know, as a Christian, I have a bit of a reaction against those sorts of situations. And I was praying about it and I think, what does God really want to say? One aspect, this is never going to be complete. This whole thing is just like too huge to be able to cover the whole thing in a short message. But some of the things I react against are from Galatians. So we'll try this next slide. Is it the arrow one that we're going to do? No, I've just killed it. Okay, this message is going to take a long time. By the time I do all of this, oh, we're stuck.
It's gone backwards.
Yeah, well, that's one I did before.
That one?
Yep, okay. Let's see if I've got another one coming up here. Okay, in Galatians, we've got a little list of attributes, and one is the sinful nature, and it talks about hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, fractions. It says that such of these will not inherit the kingdom of heaven. Then it compares the fruit of the Spirit with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And so I realised that as Christians, we at a spiritual level are going to tend to react against the chaos, the anger, and the violence. Because we're going to say that is not godly. That is not a good thing. It's not godly. So, I want to just encourage you to recognise that sometimes we are going to have a reaction, and we should have a reaction based upon the fruits of the Spirit, because we don't see those fruits being shown in these violent confrontations. Okay, well, we should not be surprised. Okay, so when Jesus warned of the trials and tribulations yet to come, but he had an encouragement, even a command. So Luke 21:9-11 says, this is before his crucifixion, before he ascends to heaven. He says, when you hear of wars and revolutions, do not be frightened. These things must happen first, but the end will not come right away. Nation will rise up against nation, kingdom against kingdom, great earthquakes, famines, pestilence in various places, fearful events, great signs from heaven. But his command to his followers is, do not be frightened. And we're going to pick that up towards the end of our message today. Well, in the face of these issues, what should we as Christians be doing? Well, if we go to Romans chapter 12, 9-21, so you guys are able to flash that up as a, if you can't, I will read it. Just hang on for a minute. Okay, now this is Paul writing in Romans, and this paraphrases some of Jesus' sayings that were back in Matthew. He says, love must be sincere. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. So as we look at world events, as we look at things happening around us, we need to perhaps look at it with these key points in mind. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Look and search for the good. Be devoted to one another in love. You know, those two great commandments, the love of God, the love of your neighbour. And whilst Paul is talking about this in the Christian context, within the Christian church, that principle of love to your fellow man, love for the people around you, what is in the best interests of these other people? What should be happening for them? Honour one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervour, serving the Lord. Be joyful in hope, patient in... Hopefully it'll be coming up in a minute. Okay, let me just pick it up. So rejoice with those who rejoice. Okay, in affliction, faithful in prayer. Faithful in prayer, I think, is really important, because that is the way in which you and I as Christians can have an effect on global events. We should be praying about the things that we see happening around us. We should ask that God's will be done. What's the key to the situation that we might be confronting? Share with the Lord's people who are in need. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends upon you, live in peace. So we can just pop back to the actual PowerPoint now, and I'll just highlight some of those key things. That's a pretty demanding list, or challenging list here. But it says, hate what is evil, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction. Keep praying about situations. Practice hospitality. Reach out to those around you. Be willing to be generous. Be willing to help. So I couldn't help but think of refugees, thinking of people who are fleeing their own country. And Paul and Christ's command to practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Don't repay evil for evil. That's a tough one, because when we get hurt, we often want to pay back. We often want to get our own back on people. But Paul's command, and Jesus' command as well, is that we don't repay evil for evil. Inasmuch as it depends upon you and me, live at peace with everybody. Don't take revenge. Paul actually says, pray for them. He said, by doing so, you heap burning coals on their head. He said, so if you really want to get a bit malicious and get back on someone, just pray for God's work in their lives. Let God deal with them. He'll sort them out. Okay? And there is a truth in that. But do not become overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So there's a list of things here to, I think, help us get some direction as to how we should respond to what's happening in our world today. Try and identify what is evil. Call it out for what it is. Find those things that are good and call them out for what they are. Point that out to people. The good things that are happening around this world. It's not all rotten. Okay, let's try one more time. And just, you can do it at the desk. Go to the next one. I think that's what we'll do. Okay. So let's get going. Yep. So the cross, and put down here a message of reconciliation. Can we advance that to the next one, please? Okay. We've got here that Christ transcends culture, colour or creed. The Christian faith has a unifying narrative that reaches out to all people. All right. So the interesting thing is that Christ was born as a Jew. He lived in Israel. So there's a cultural setting for Christ's existence on this earth. So there's a specific time, there's a specific place, and there's a culture that he is born into. Some people would say that limits the Christian faith. It's culturally limited because it comes out of the Middle East. But as a Gentile, as a person who has no heritage other than my connection back to Noah and his family, which all of you are connected to, but my heritage comes from England, from Scotland, and you could say 1 million kilometres away from the Middle East. But how come I'm a Christian? How come you're a Christian? How come the Christian church is global? Because it's not about joining a particular group. It's about God calling all nations, all people to him through the cross. And it has a global story, a story which applies to every human being. So there is a unifying aspect to the Christian faith. Yes, it can be used to create division. Yes, people in the past have used it to justify particularly wars and attacks upon each other. That is unfortunate. God wouldn't be surprised about that. That's part of the human condition. We have this tendency to justify what we're doing rather than submitting to what God would want us to do. So the Christian faith is unifying. Reading the Bible and being led by the Spirit brings unity. Okay? So I really believe that. It's worked in my life. It's in circumstances and situations that I've prayed about things. I've been upset, cross, angry, I've been feeling vengeful. I've read, and you say, God, are you talking to me? You read a little passage of scripture again. God, are you talking to me? Yes, I am. I have to forgive them, yes. But they did do the wrong thing. If I forgive them, I'm not saying that they are off the hook. God's going to deal with them. I'm not saying that what they did was right. I'm not saying it isn't important. But I am saying that I have to soften my heart and I have to release because God is telling me to. And when you think about that, you think about global leaders, just imagine if your country was about to be annihilated by a nuclear attack. And you, as the President, as the Prime Minister, have the power to push the button and retaliate. And God says, don't do it. Let history judge the other nation. And the only ones that are ever going to be able to help you. Don't do it. And the person doesn't respond. That would be absolutely amazing, but I do believe that can happen. I believe that God can speak. And the person says, no, I'm not going to respond in kind. I'm not going to be vengeful. I'll choose a different path. I'll let God take control. Part of the wonderful story of the Christian faith is that all descendants, we are all descended of one man and one woman. We actually do belong to a global family. Biologically, you are my brothers and sisters, and so are the people in everywhere other place of the world. We are all descended from Adam and Eve. We all sinned, and we all need reconciliation or redemption. We will all be saved through Christ's sacrifice if we receive his gift. In other words, salvation comes through Christ. Not that every human being on the planet will be saved before the end, but that everyone will come to salvation through Jesus. We become a new creation. We can become part of a family. And in Galatians it says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Jesus Christ. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, don't be alarmed about what is happening. But here's another thing that Jesus said to his disciples. And remember before I said, do not be afraid. It says, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. I interpret that to mean the world can give, the world can take away. But here I see this as Jesus saying, when I give it to you, I give it to you. You have it been taken away. And he says, do not let your hearts be troubled, do not be afraid, but my peace I give to you. So I think our challenge and encouragement to Christians is, let us speak with a clear voice. Let us continue to do the good work as outlined in the Gospels. Do not be frightened. Take hold of God's peace. Claim it, because it is a gift from God. And really, if I felt there was anything that God really wanted to say to us this morning through this message, it was really about this idea of the peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. And I want to encourage you that if you've been struggling, if you find that your peace has been deserting you, that you've been worrying about events and circumstances, whether they're global or whether they're more personal ones, then maybe we can just take some time to focus on God's peace. To say, Lord, where is this peace that you have promised me? You said this is a gift that you give to your people. Help me to rediscover or find that gift so that in the midst of whatever's happening around me, I can still find a place of peace, a place of rest in Jesus. He is ultimately in control. He does know what's happening. We can trust him. Let me close with a word of prayer. Well, Heavenly Father, I just praise you and thank you that you are indeed the God of creation. You are the God of the universe. You are the one who holds the destiny of this planet in your hands. You hold the destiny of humanity in your hands. But also, Lord, you hold my destiny as well. Lord, you know the beginning from the end. Lord, you know the life journey that has been planned out for us. And you are with us in every step of the way. And I pray for myself and I pray for others here that we will just lay hold of your promise, that your burden is light, that your yoke is easy, that there is a place of rest and there is a place of peace in you. And Lord, in the midst of busy and turmoil or busy lives, in the midst of the turmoil that sometimes surrounds us, Lord, help us to find a place of rest, a place of peace in you, a place where we can hand over our struggles and our worries and know that you are with us, that you strengthen us, that you help us to meet each and every challenge. For this we ask in your precious name. Amen, Lord. And I just want to say thank you to the music ministry people. That was really great this morning. If you would like prayer for anything in particular today, if you'd like to come forward, Dave, myself and a few others would just regard it as an absolute privilege to be able to pray with you and for you. God bless and enjoy hospitality together out in the foyer. Thank you.